Socure has expanded its Risk OS platform to offer a variety of age assurance tools. I'm Joel McConvey. Today on the Biometric Update Podcast, we speak with Rivka Little, Chief Growth Officer for Socure, about the rapidly changing age assurance landscape. Let's talk about the summer of age assurance, what's happened in the UK, what's happening everywhere. What's your take on these first couple of weeks of the UK Online Safety Act? Looking at that as a sort of test case for what may happen elsewhere, as an observer, how do you rate it?
I'm not surprised. What we've seen in the last couple of weeks since the go live of age verification and age assurance laws in the UK, specific to adult content sites and other adult access, what I like to call vice tech, is an extreme reduction in the use of some of the more primary sites, such as Pornhub. I think Pornhub expected this to happen, so I'm not that shocked. People don't necessarily want to be associated with adult content sites. And so exposing their credentials or faces or other kinds of PII in the quest to attain said content is going to be something they're going to pull back from. I think the stat that we should be paying more attention to is the fact that less regulated sites are seeing an increase in traffic. And frankly, the identity and regulation and compliance folks at Pornhub have been warning about this for years now. If you over-regulate us and make it overly difficult to verify age at Pornhub, then people are just going to go to unregulated sites where truly dangerous things happen, where there are not protections for performers or content providers, and there are not protections for those who are consuming it. And so it's sort of a worst case scenario.
Mm-hmm. There's so much to unpack in it. I think it's fascinating to me that at the core, we're kind of dealing with a shame issue. People don't want any risk of being associated with these sites, even though they're among the most popular sites on the internet. But I think it's also very interesting because one of the issues and the sticking points is that Ofcom, the regulator, has promised to be fair across the board. And this is something that ALO, which owns Pornhub, has said, you've got to follow through on this because, again, unless they're regulating everybody, then there are going to be these holes. It's like whack-a-mole, right? Someone will just go to the other site. Do you think it's possible to regulate all of them?
Unless you can suddenly wrangle the dark web, the answer is no. I mean, obviously you can't regulate all of them. I want to note, I'm not against age verification, and I am not against protections for particularly youth who we don't want necessarily to be exposed. But I think that there is an in-between of like getting a frictionless sort of behind the scenes age verification solution in place and collecting people's information, forcing them to produce credentials and doing other things that may result in them feeling shame or fear. I think it's important to look at the SCOTUS decision, which in that decision, they determined that the protection of children from accessing, or those under 18 from accessing this content, in no way results in an infringement on First Amendment rights for those who are over 18. I mean, that's really the basis of that decision. And that may or may not be true. Like, I'm not going to challenge the Supreme Court, but what I would say is if people are feeling shamed or shame, that means you have to figure out a solution that allows us to both keep people safe and get people in the door without losing. I mean, Pornhub lost 1 million users in the UK in 2 weeks. That's terrible. That's like the worst case scenario. Yeah. And particularly as someone who I've spent my career building identity solutions that unlock growth. Like we always say, like we stop for fraud, sure, but we're able to do that while unlocking growth. And to see this happen, it's just the antithesis of what great identity should look like.
To that end, Socure has released its own age assurance solution, the Risk OS platform. Tell me, where does this fit in this sort of matrix of age verification? There's estimation, there's parental controls. What is Socure's product all about?
So we started looking at age verification and age assurance many years ago. We just frankly didn't market it as that, but we are probably the largest provider of identity to gaming and sports books in the US. And as such, an enormous part of that is age verification and ensuring that folks who are not under 18 are using those applications. So we've been doing it for a long time, but what we set out to do in this particular expansion was to ensure that we have a very flexible set of solutions which enable compliance despite this insane fabric and patchwork of differing laws. And what I mean is, I think we're at like 28 different states that have rules and or laws in the US, and each of them have differing technical requirements or none. Like it's like some strange combination. And so our assumption is that every company looking to comply is going to want to have solutions that are flexible enough to be compliant in each state. Otherwise, they're forced to be as compliant as the most stringent state, which they may not want to do. So in our situation, what you can do is you can have completely frictionless identity verification, meaning you come, you put in nothing more than an email or one minor piece of PII, and we're able to see essentially who you are, that you're a real person, and we can know your age and just let you in. And it's a very passive behind the scenes decision, and it's insanely accurate. Like our accuracy rate is at 99% of the demographic in the US, inclusive of those who are below 18. So that's one way to do it. We have document verification, which, I know there's a huge resistance around, and I understand that. Like the idea of producing a credential that is going to be on file when you're accessing this kind of content may not be that great for people, but it is what it is. We can do that. We do it really, really quickly, which at least if you're going to do it, we do it with speed, with haste, and with accuracy. So that's a possibility. And then we also have a re-verification where once you've done it once. That's it. And anytime you come back, you can do a facey on your phone or a selfie on your phone and be done. So that's also, again, speed and as little friction as possible, although it still involves a face. And I've spoken to the ALO folks, and I've said to them, like, if this is your concern, you absolutely can do face-free IDV. Like, there's no reason you can't. That's like, so there's that. And then we also do have varying ways of what we call householding, where you can see who minors are, and we can see them in relationship to their guardians inside a household. That wouldn't be for adult content. That would be more along the lines of understanding younger people for the purposes of social media, which is super critical. And so that's like, you can choose any of those and you can run all of them at the same time, and you can even run them in different states via the same platform in the same organization.
Okay. So it's really a total suite that you can then customize and fine-tune according to the compliance needs in a particular scenario. You're just kind of leveraging Socure's capabilities, existing capabilities, and plugging them into this system.
We are able to take very, very little PII and email a phone and be able to look in our graph and understand who an identity is, are they real, and get a pretty close age estimation just off of that input. We don't need to do a credential.
Sure, but I mean, the email obviously is attached to public accounts, and that's the information you're looking at, right? Yeah.
We, as a whole, access several hundred external databases and authoritative sources to be able to understand who folks are. I also think it's worth noting, a lot of times when we talk about age verification, we go to these sort of extreme moments where it's either like, oh, it's adult content or vice, cannabis, alcohol, or oh, it's like protect the children on social media. But there are a wide range of ways that we leverage age verification to grow businesses and to ensure safety that are not huge hotbeds of controversy, but are important. So I'll give you an example. My sister is the founder of a dating site for people over 60. And one of the features that she provides is ensuring that everyone engaging on the site is over 60, right? She just, people don't want to be on there and be getting scammed by a 20-year-old. They really want to, they're there for a reason. And so there are all these ways that we can use age to improve services, to help people feel safe, to create communities that are important. And so having this flexibility is important for all the reasons we discussed, but also just what you can do with it becomes more and more interesting.
I think we've determined at this point, there are many ways to do it. It is possible. And there's a lot of potential that's not yet been explored in terms of how it can be an enabling technology. But the fundamental piece, as you suggested earlier, is like people don't have to trust the porn site. They have to trust Socure. They have to trust the business that's processing that identity transaction. So, can you talk to me a bit about communications and how the company approaches that side of it in sort of like presenting itself as a trustworthy entity to the world at large?
Sure. I mean, actually, I believe that most of the time when we are used, we are actually behind the scenes. And what we hope is that we're such a trusted solution that anyone, whether you are Chime using us for banking or OnlyFans using us for content provider verification, or employers using us for workforce background, which we're used in all these different kinds of scenarios, that the organization that is using us is trusted. That's actually what we hope. In the few cases where we are customer facing, we do have some customers who put us up front or like powered by Socure, branded by Socure. Um, the thing we want people to understand is that we have spent literally 12 years learning how to be the most accurate and the most inclusive in terms of demographic coverage identity solution in the market. We like things change and we innovate and we add products, but at our baseline, we have worked really hard to ensure that we are accurate and inclusive in terms of our coverage. And that's what we communicate always, regardless of what scenario, whether it's banking, whether it's we're now in education, stopping, the defrauding of the student loan system. We're now in government, like wherever it is that we are, our goal is to ensure that trusted safety means reduction in fraud and like a scale of good users. That's what we create always.
It's a tough task to be a sort of an invisible yet trusted entity.
Yeah, it is. It's what we talk to our customers about all the time and our partners, and it's super important. And I also think it's worth noting that like a really long time ago we signed Drizzly, right? And I remember at the time we're like, oh, it's alcohol delivery, it could go to anyone. In the end of the day, it is not our job to determine what people should or should not consume. That's like the job of others. Our job is to ensure that people do it safely and in compliance. Compliance can look different in different places. We're going to make sure you're compliant. We're going to make sure that whoever is using it is safe and that our customers are safe. It's just not our job to get involved in the what. And the what at this point for us, so many different things, like literally everything from telemedicine to education to taxes to, it's just really important that there is a trusted layer of identity across the ecosystem, regardless of what you're engaging in.
So how does the firm differentiate itself? Because you can say, we've been working for years. We're the trusted identity infrastructure backbone. But are you saying to clients, like, look at our numbers, look at our accuracy?
Well, we are probably the only identity verification company in the market that has always proven ourselves by our numbers, relentlessly so. I mean, yes, we in the sales process, we put testing right up front. Now it's easier than ever on Risk OS for customers to trial our products with a very simple implementation, and we give free transactions and allow them to try it. We are very, very much about our numbers. I think it's been joked about in the market how like relentless we are in sharing our numbers, and we are. we share them at every turn, and we have no problem doing that. You can innovate in all kinds of ways, but there are some bottom lines you must do. You must know every identity. You must stop fraud, and you must reduce manual reviews. Like you must do these things, and you must prove it by the numbers. That's us always. Relentless.
I like it. I want to touch on one more thing related to age assurance, which is the VPN issue, because in tandem with the drop in traffic to these adult content sites and the spike to these unregulated ones, we've also seen a spike in VPN downloads. So these are, kids or not, people finding a workaround to this legislation. Is there an answer to that? Is there a solution?
Yes, 100%. That's such a great question. Listen, every single identity solution that at this point, certainly ours is, I think all should have digital intelligence at its base. For us, our digital intelligence product looks at device attributes, but it also looks at emulators. It looks at the presence of VPNs. It looks at the presence of risky VPNs specifically. We are able to now track full sets of risky domains. Like, the first thing people try to do is to mask themselves digitally so that they can come in another way. And digital intelligence is a very critical and core part of verifying identity these days. And if it's not part of that solution, it's not a solution you need to be using.
I have one last question. I want to thank you again for your time today. It's been wonderful to chat. I have a theory about Socure's success. You have years of proven work behind you. You have the numbers. But I think maybe, see what you think. I think it might be those socks that you give out at conferences. Love the Socure socks. They're so easy to find.
We're happy to send you more. We love our socks too. My whole family wears them.
But they certainly stand out, and I think that's a key piece in this market right now. Everyone's sort of paying attention and trying to sort of capitalize on what's happening with the laws. So maybe the socks are your siren call.
Love the socks, but I'll tell you the truth. Like, we are a company obsessed with our mission. We have a bench of experts here that have come from industry, come from other vendors, come from people who have been working at this problem for a really long time. And I think found a space where we know we can really get it right. And it is honestly a joy working with this team every day. And I think it's because we're all obsessed with our mission. But we love our socks too.
Thanks to Rivka for joining us today on the Biometric Update Podcast. For more about Socure, visit Socure.com. And for more on age assurance, be sure to visit www.biometricupdate.com.